Welcome to San Joaquin Spotlight, a public affairs program featuring conversations about life in the central San Joaquin Valley. This program is brought to you in partnership between KFSR 90.7 FM and CMAC Fresno. I'm your host, Sevag Tateosian. Welcome to another episode of San Joaquin Spotlight here in downtown Fresno, the beautiful community media access collaborative studios. And I love this time of year because for those of you traveling to downtown Fresno, you see the beautiful Christmas tree on top of the Pacific Southwest building. If you have not done so, drive by the freeway in downtown Fresno. You'll see that beautiful Christmas tree. Well, speaking of beautiful downtown Fresno, we have a guest of ours who originally was from Fresno, but now in Southern California. Her name is Valerie McCaffrey. Valerie, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
So our audience members see you. We've got this recording via Skype. Where are you at right now?
I am in, Los Angeles, in Lake Balboa, near Encino.
And earlier you had a gentleman back there working away this evening. There he is right there. So what's going on at your offices right now?
Yeah, we work hard. We work long.
So tell us a little bit about, before we get into what your role is now and what you're doing, tell us a little bit about yourself. So you were born in Fresno, and then what happened?
I was born in Fresno, and I ended up leaving Fresno. I'm Armenian, so I ended up leaving Fresno for University of Hawaii for a year, and then went to California State Long Beach and finished up in radio, television, and film.
And so when did you realize that film or the television industry is for you? Because, Fresno, although it's changing, we haven't really been the place for, like, the film industry.
Well, I was actually thinking about this question because I was asked this question earlier today. And I think it must have stemmed from my mother, because my mother had always wanted to be a torch singer, always talked about Hollywood and entertainment. And somehow I think I just grew up realizing that that's what I wanted to do, and at a very, very young age. So there you go. I just, they say family influences. Even though my parents were not in the industry at all, I have my brother working for Homeland Security. I have my sister in the airline business, and I decided to be the black sheep in the family and pick entertainment.
Well, you mentioned airline business and your sister. The last time we talked, you were headed out to, like, Europe scouting a location. I don't know if you remember that. It was years ago. But so talk about some of the things you do in the industry. You do some location scouting too as well, correct?
Right. When I'm producing films, that's when I go out on location and I do scouting, which I do now as well. So I produce movies, I cast films, and I have a small group of actors who I manage.
So, Fresno, one of the things I wanted to ask you is, there was a movie recently that was shot in Fresno, kind of low budget, gets picked up by Warner Brothers, gets distributed internationally, and the movie I'm talking about is The Gallows. Talk a little bit about, do you think that put Fresno on the map, or was Fresno on the map before that? Because I do recall that there's been movie stars that have come into the town to shoot small scenes. I mean, I remember Harrison Ford came to use our airport one time. But, talk a little bit about The Gallows and whether you think that kind of put the movie industry in Fresno on the map.
Well, what is going to be very interesting in the independent world and also in the big studio world is the new tax credit that is now available, 25% California tax credit. So if Fresno developed an infrastructure that would actually have crew members and equipment and those kinds of things, I think that would open up even more so the marketplace in Fresno. What you have in Fresno that is a plus is it's economical, It has mountains. It has different locations. The locations are cost effective. And I think if the mayor of Fresno would really put his foot down and really have someone market Fresno in the way that it should be marketed, I think it would be very, very beneficial to the city. Uh, I had actually called the film commission, which I guess doesn't exist in Fresno anymore, and I basically got no answer from them because I was obviously thinking of shooting a movie in Fresno. So we really, this is something that Fresno really has to step up because you're not too far away from Los Angeles. And people can drive there, and crew members can drive there, and in one day, and it can, again, Fresno could be another really great hotspot to film movies. But I don't know how proactive your government is in Fresno.
And we did have a film commissioner for a time, but you're right. I don't believe that that position exists anymore because we've had the film commissioner here on the program before. And, when I reached out to him recently, he said, my position is no longer there. So I don't know if he's volunteering for that position, but I'll connect with him again. That's a great observation. And with this tax credit, it makes sense. When you're looking for a place to shoot, I mean, one thing there is, and I don't know if it's a misconception or not, but every time we think of Hollywood, we think of major productions, and when someone comes to shoot a location or scout a location, people think, oh, it's going to be all over the news and it's going to make a lot of media attention. When you're out scouting a location, is all that attention around you, or do you do that kind of quietly?
We do it kind of quietly. I mean, there'll be times if we're scouting a film and we're really absolutely sure that we're going to be filming there, then it makes sense to go out to the media and let them know because any promotion on a film before you actually start shooting it is beneficial to the movie.
Yeah. One of the things, in doing the radio show and now the TV show, one of the things that I've found is I listen to people and their voices. And when someone has a good voice, I all of a sudden say, wow, that's an incredible voice. That's a radio voice. I say that because, in your role with working with talent, do you think that there are people out there that have not been found? I mean, sometimes I can go to the store and I see someone and the way they're carrying themselves, and I think, wow, this could be someone that can do movies real well. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I've discovered people just happenly random, even watching TV. They're selling. I was in Florida one time and I was doing Problem Child 2, and I had trouble finding a role. And there was this guy late night that was taking a baseball bat and banging the windshields of the car while he's trying to sell them. And I said, this guy's funny. And I asked the casting director, the local casting director there, can you find this guy? And he looked at me like I was out of my mind. But he ended up booking the role, and then he ended up leaving his sales job and went on to be a stand-up comic and toured the nation. So, wherever I am, no matter where I am, I'm always scouting talent. I always look at people's faces. I look at I imagine them. Some would call it nosy, but I'm not nosy. I'm just, as Shia LaBeouf said to me one time, just recently, I was at the Toronto Film Festival. I said, I just want to, tell you how I think, you did in the film, and you did incredible on the movie Man Down. And he said, I know. I go, and I said, and I'm a casting director. And he goes, yeah, I know, you casting directors are very judgmental. And it's because that's our job, to be judgmental, because we do have to, weed through and get to the best talent. So, yeah, that's, it's my world. But I do agree that there are people out there that, need to be discovered. Just luck and opportunity.
And you're going to the next area I want to go, but so what do you say to someone, I'm no expert in talent, so, let me just throw that out there. But what do you say to someone when you're at the store? And, this happened to me the other day when I was at the store, and, the salesperson at the store was so smooth. She was so good that I thought, this person, I mean, I could see this person on TV or something like that. So what, I mean, what do you say to someone like that? Like, go find an agent and you should be a model, and, you have to be careful because she might think I'm flirting with her and I'm a married man,
Well, what you should say, is, hey, I know this casting director, Valerie McCaffrey, and I think she'd be very interested in you, you know. So, no, when I go up to somebody, I just say, I'm Valerie McCaffrey. I hand them my card, and I say, I have something that I think you might be right for. I know you may not, be an actor, but or are you an actor? I mean, you're in Los Angeles. It's always everyone is always into something. So. And you run into people all the time. So it's not unusual to have some connection there.
Well, and you mentioned luck. So I want to ask you that question because, you just mentioned you saw some guy on TV and you thought this would be a great person on TV. But so that does happen, and the reason I asked the question is because I think I read somewhere about Rachel Ray, and I'm a fan of Rachel Ray, and I guess someone was watching her on public television and they thought, this lady would be awesome on a major network. And so, they went to Rachel Ray and talked to her about it. So luck exists out there, you're saying?
Yes, it does exist. But you have to be ready when the opportunity comes on board. You have to be ready. You can't, it's like an actor who's been training for a very long time and maybe never had done a movie or a TV show. But when somebody reaches out to him, he can deliver the goods. When he's given the test, he can pass the test, and that's where when luck and opportunity come together, and then you got to bring the talent, bring the training.
Well, and another question I want to ask you is about social media, because nowadays, you've got like the Justin Biebers, and you've got a lot of people out there that do something on social media like YouTube, and they become a huge success. And I'm asking that question because the other night I was watching something on the Piano Guys, and someone had the idea to put them on YouTube, and all of a sudden they have like 500 million hits on YouTube, which is incredible. How important is social media to your industry?
I mean, it's important to the fact of how many followers someone has, but it's yet to be determined that YouTube stars end up translating to box office dollars. Now, maybe on television because it's free, because people on YouTube, they watch for free, these people, these actors or performers, even if you're talking about a webisode, but does it translate to box office dollars? The highest percentage of people going to the theater are Latin men between the ages of 14 and 25. So, are they going to be watching people that they might be watching from YouTube and pay for it when they've gotten to see them for free? So this is where they're still doing studies on it. And, I mean, it's nice to think that somebody's got a lot of hits on YouTube, but does it translate to box office dollars?
Tell us a little bit about whether the right reasons for this industry, because, I don't know how many people watch this television show. I don't know how many people listen to the radio, but when people hear I'm on TV and radio, they all of a sudden assume that I'm raking in the money, and, they want to do the same thing because they want to become millionaires and they want to be overnight successes. I may be exaggerating there, but the reason I ask you that question is the right reasons to get into this industry, money and fame or something else?
Oh, I think something else. I think you just can't do anything else. I think it has to be like that. And money and fame is going to come with success, but the success has to be based in an area of love, because this business has a lot of rejection. So along with all the success, you do have a lot of rejection, and you have to love it, because nobody likes to be rejected. However, it's part of the thing that drives you in this industry is the love for it. And I think that if you start thinking you're going to be a big star and you do this and that, I think you're going down the wrong route, because it's not about the work. It's got to be somebody wanting to empower a character and to portray it in the best possible way. And some of our strongest actors that have the most longevity are the ones that are our character actors, the Bruce Sterns of the world, and just the ones that just love embodying these characters, and they still get nominated after all these years. So now, got to be about the work.
So you are in Southern California right now. You were originally from Fresno. Do you have to be in LA or Southern California or New York to do what you're doing? I mean, how important is it for someone in your position to be where the action is? Or now with technology, could you be 300 miles away in the center of California and do what you're doing?
Could I be in Fresno? Um, now I think it's a little bit easier than how it was before. But yeah, you could do have a business and operate from Fresno. And Fresno's only 3.5 hours away, so it's not like an all-day driving scenario. I've driven to Fresno in one day, to and back from Los Angeles. So it's easier, but it's very important to be here for meetings or things that come up at the last minute, and to be available depending on if I'm auditioning actors, I have to be in the room with them. So just depends on what I'm doing.
What advice would you give to someone from Fresno, or they don't have to be in Fresno, but someone who wants to be an actor or actress? What are some of the pointers you would give them? And, part of the reason I asked this question is I'm a fan of the singer Sia. And Sia, when she performs, she never shows her face. It's always, covered, so you don't know what she looks like, but she performs beautifully. Her music is great, and she's on the top of the charts. What advice would you give somebody that wants to do good in this industry? What pointers would you give them?
Well, first of all, the first pointer would be not to cover their face. But the most important thing when you're pursuing acting is your training. You have to set a foundation for your work. And if you train well and you get and I'm not just talking about, and I'm not talking about one college over another, but to seek out the colleges and universities, if you choose to go that route, to the best theater schools, and or forget about theater and just come to LA and get in the best classes ever. And that is and those are the two ways to go. You can go the theater route. If mommy and daddy want you to get a degree and they think acting is ridiculous, then go that route. If not, just come and just get into the best classes. And how do you find the best classes? You find people that can mentor you, and it could be fellow students that you could seek out, and being networking with many of the other actors to really find your place. You got to find your place and then just train. And that is my best advice to give, because you have to crawl before you can walk.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the behind the scenes work. I'm smiling because, before we started this interview, we have a volunteer crew in the studio that were running around trying to make sure our audio was right and to make sure that you heard me and I heard you. Someone who behind the scenes wants to work in this industry, let's say as a writer, what advice would you give for them?
Well, as William Saroyan gave advice to another writer friend of mine, just write. Just keep writing. And eventually you just get better and better. If this is you feel that is your talent. And then always seek the opinion of others who you trust. Like if you're writing a script, for instance, you should have people read it and give you critique and be open to criticism. Because when you're creating something, you get too married to it sometimes and you don't see some of the faults in it. So give it to as many people as you can to get the right guidance, and eventually, I believe you'll be successful if you have talent in writing.
Talk a little bit about the audition process. Because one of the roles that you have is you're a talent manager, and I know because I think you've signed one of my friends or someone who is in Fresno, Sevag who was in
Oh,
Fresno.
yeah.
Yeah, showing. He was in Fresno at a premiere, and so I thought he said that you had, or you're working with him now. But
Yeah.
so, what does that process look like? I mean, they call you, and you do what?
Well, the process could be, for instance, I saw him in the movie and I really liked his work. And then I was invited to a girlfriend's birthday party and I met him and I expressed that I would love to represent him. That was one way. Another way is uh, actors contact me, they send the material. I look at their material. If it's something that I think I can sell, and I think they're marketable, then I'll sign them as well. Many times people send me their materials and their pictures are terrible, their reel is outdated. I'm not going to sign, you know. So, just like a business, you got to make sure that your business is as in top notch as possible in order for you to move forward. Your marketing materials.
And the last time we talked was several years ago, and you're very good doing things behind the scenes, finding talent, finding locations. Did you ever want to be the star yourself? Did you ever want to do, be the Angelina Jolie or the star yourself? Or were you happy doing kind of the behind the scenes, keeping the machine moving?
uh, well, actually, most of my earlier career, I was an actress. But when I found out that dark-haired, dark-eyed girls that were Armenian were being considered going out for Latino roles, I was not. I know the difference. And I just felt that it wasn't the right time for me, and that I was impatient, and I wanted to work, and I love behind the scenes just as much. So I chose to go that route, and I think that was the smarter move. You know.
What are you working on now? Could you tell our audience members some of the things you're working on? Because, last time we talked, you were looking for a location, you were traveling to Europe for a location. What are some of the things you're working on now?
Well, I was in prep for a movie called Men of Granite. It was based on the 1940 basketball team comprised mostly of Armenians whose parents were immigrants, like first generation Armenians coming to the United States, very similar to what's happening right now in Europe, where these migrants are coming in and it'd be their children that would be born here. And they go on, they're discriminated against, and they weren't allowed to play basketball, even though they all played basketball together for several years and were very good. And then finally they're allowed to play and they win the state championship in basketball. And this all takes place in Illinois. So I have Shirley MacLaine in the film, and I've cast a cast of characters who are the basketball players. And hopefully we're going to resume our filming in March, maybe February, March. So that's one of the things I'm working on. And then I'm working on a project called Introducing Jodea, about an actress who's very terrible being an actress. And it's her journey in Hollywood. And it's a very funny romantic comedy.
And so you're talking about these things, and people who don't know the background or don't know the work that goes into even a production like this, I mean, that we're doing here, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of prep time. There's a lot of work that goes into some of these things you're working on, correct?
Extremely. I mean, there's no such thing as an 8-hour day. You're working 14, 16 hours a day easy. You're up all hours of the night. You're worrying 24/7 because somebody has given you money to make a film, and it's a lot of money. And you have to make sure that your investors are going to get their money back. And it's a big headache. But it's a headache. For some reason, I forget about the headache I had before, and I take it on again. But I just love telling stories, and that's the reason why. And I think that, in particular, Men of Granite is the forgotten generation. It's my parents basically that went through the Depression, and I think it's a story that hasn't been told. So I get passionate. It becomes like a baby, where I have to really, take care of it and see it grow.
So we're running out of time this week on the program, believe it or not. I could spend probably another hour with you talking about the industry and some of the things you're working on. Last time we talked, I asked you, who is it that you would like to work with? Or if I had a magic wand and I could grant you one wish or someone in the industry that you could work with, who could it be? And I hate to put you on the spot on that one, but is there someone right now you want to work with?
Right now, that I haven't worked with, I've worked with Spielberg. Okay. Do they have to be dead or alive?
Either or.
Well, you know, I'm gonna throw out Betty Davis. I would
Okay.
love to work with Betty Davis. I think that she was a very progressive woman. She told it like it was, and I think she was a fabulous actress. If I was to pick someone today, it would be, you know, Meryl Streep, maybe. Meryl Streep. Yep.
Well, you know, we are again out of time this week. How can our audience members get in touch with you? I mean, how can they find out more about some of the cool things that you're doing?
You can visit me on Facebook, and I have my McCaffrey Talent Management is on Facebook, and someone can always reach me out there and ask me questions. And sometimes a lot of times I give actor advice, you know, and yeah, so on Facebook, McCaffrey Talent Management.
Valerie, thank you so much for being on the program this week. I know that our audience members learned a lot from you, and next time you're in Fresno, let's be in touch. I'd love to give you a tour of this beautiful studio we're in.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you for having me.
You are very welcome. That's all for this edition of San Joaquin Spotlight. To the volunteer crew that made this production and every production possible, thank you so much. We couldn't do this program without you. Thank you to our audience members listening to us on 90.7 FM, KFSR Fresno, and to those watching us on Comcast 93, AT&T 99. Hope you enjoyed the show this week with Valerie McCaffrey. Tune in next week to a new edition.